The champagne glass was still in my husband's hand when he destroyed our marriage in front of everyone. He smiled at his family. Then he looked directly at me and said, "Honestly, the only thing you're good for is cooking dinner?" People laughed. I didn't. I simply stared at him. Because in that exact moment, I realized my husband had no idea who he had married. My name is Sophie Carter. I was 32 years old, and for the last 3 years, I had been married to Ryan Carter, a man who believed his career was the reason our life looked successful. That night, Ryan had just received a major promotion. His family rented an expensive restaurant for the celebration. There were flowers everywhere, crystal glasses, photographers, his parents, his cousins, his co-workers. Everyone wanted to congratulate the new regional director, and I stood beside him, smiling politely. I was happy for him. Or at least, I wanted to be. Ryan had worked hard. He deserved to celebrate. But somewhere during dinner, his confidence turned into arrogance. His father raised a glass. "To Ryan," he announced. "To the man who built himself from nothing." Everyone clapped. Ryan smiled proudly. Then his mother, Elaine, looked at me. "So, Sophie," she said, "now that Ryan has reached this level, what are you planning to do with your life?" I smiled. "I've been busy with my own work." Ryan laughed. "Her work?" A few people chuckled. I looked at him. He continued, "She works from home. It's nothing serious." He said it so casually, as if everything I did was meaningless. I decided not to argue. Then Ryan stood up. He lifted his glass. And that's when he said the sentence I would never forget. "After supporting her for 3 years, I think she should at least learn how to cook properly." The table erupted in laughter. His mother laughed the loudest. I felt every eye in the room turn toward me. Ryan expected me to become embarrassed, maybe cry, maybe defend myself. Instead, I reached for my glass, took one slow sip, and smiled, because they had no idea what was coming next. A few minutes later, Elaine walked toward me with a small black envelope. She placed it beside my plate. "Ryan thinks it's time you both move forward separately." I opened it. Divorce papers. Already prepared, already signed by Ryan. They had planned this before the party. The humiliation wasn't an accident. It was part of the plan. Ryan leaned toward me. "Don't make this difficult, Sophie." I looked at the papers. Then I looked at him. "Are you sure?" He smiled. "Absolutely." I picked up the pen and signed. His smile disappeared. He clearly expected tears. Instead, I handed the papers back. "Congratulations, Ryan," he frowned. "For what?" I stood up. "For finally giving me a reason to stop hiding." Nobody understood what I meant. Not yet. Because for 3 years, Ryan had believed he was the person paying for our comfortable life. He had no idea who actually owned the company responsible for his career. And the next morning, he was going to walk into that company expecting congratulations. Instead, he was going to discover who was sitting in the executive office waiting for him. The next morning, Ryan walked into his office expecting everyone to congratulate him. Instead, the entire floor went quiet. His assistant stood near the reception desk holding a folder. "Ryan, you need to go upstairs." He frowned. "Why?" She swallowed. "The executive board is waiting." Ryan smiled. "Of course they are." He adjusted his expensive suit and walked toward the elevator. He had no idea that his entire understanding of his career was about to collapse. Upstairs, the boardroom doors opened. Several executives were already seated around the table. At the far end was a woman in a dark suit. Ryan stepped inside. "I was told there was an urgent meeting." The woman slowly looked up. It was me. Ryan stopped. For several seconds, he couldn't speak. "Sophie?" I closed the file. "Good morning, Ryan." He looked around the room, then back at me. What are you doing here? I smiled. I'm working. He actually laughed. You work here? One of the executives cleared his throat. No, Mr. Carter. She doesn't work here. Ryan looked confused. The executive continued. She owns the company. Ryan's face changed instantly. I could almost see the moment his brain refused to accept what he was hearing. That isn't possible. I placed a document on the table. It is. He picked it up. His eyes moved across the page. Founder, controlling shareholder, executive chair. My name was printed clearly across the top. Ryan looked at me again. You? Yes. But you told me you worked from home. I do. He shook his head. You made it sound like you did small freelance work. I never said that. He didn't answer, because he suddenly remembered all the times he had walked past my home office, all the late-night calls, all the confidential envelopes, all the meetings I attended online. He had never asked. He simply assumed. I had started the company before we met. It began with a small software project in my apartment. One client became 3 became 20. Eventually, the business expanded into logistics technology and automation. I hired executives to handle the public side. I preferred to stay private. Ryan knew I worked. He just never believed my work could be important. That was his mistake. Then I opened another folder. There's something else. Ryan looked nervous. The company you work for was acquired last month. His face went pale. Acquired by who? I looked directly at him. By us. Silence filled the room. Ryan slowly sat down. You knew? I approved the acquisition. He stared at me. You've been my boss? Not exactly. I paused. But I have been the person above the people who decided your promotion. Ryan's hands began to shake. Then he remembered the previous night. His jokes, his insults, his mother handing me divorce papers, his voice telling everyone I was useless. I leaned back in my chair. You celebrated a promotion that I personally approved. Ryan looked devastated. But I wasn't finished, because the acquisition wasn't the only reason he had been called into that room. I pushed another document across the table. This is your employment review. He looked at it. Then his expression changed completely, because promotion 係真草片藏着行真芸豆仔. Ow! Because the promotion he had been celebrating was now under review. Ryan stared at the employment review. For the first time since I had known him, he looked genuinely afraid. What does this mean? He asked. I folded my hands on the table. It means your promotion is not the only thing being reviewed. He looked toward the executives. Why? I opened another file. Inside were performance reports, client complaints, missed deadlines, internal messages, and several formal warnings. Ryan's face became pale. You kept all this? No, I said calmly. The company did. He looked at me. Then why didn't anyone tell me? I almost smiled. They did. He remembered. His expression changed. Because he had ignored every warning, every missed deadline, every complaint, every employee who had tried to tell him that his behavior was damaging the team. He had simply blamed everyone else. Then I placed one final document in front of him, a client cancellation notice. The client had walked away because Ryan had insulted their project manager during a meeting. That single contract was worth millions. Ryan stared at the page. I can't explain. I know. He looked relieved. Then I continued. But explaining doesn't erase what happened. The room went silent. Ryan leaned forward. Sophie, please. I looked at him. Don't call me that like we're still married. He stopped. I wasn't angry anymore. That surprised me. For months, I had imagined exposing Ryan. I had imagined making him feel the same humiliation he had made me feel. But sitting across from him now, I realized something. I didn't need revenge. I needed closure. Ryan lowered his voice. Why didn't you ever tell me who you were? I looked at him for a long moment. Because I wanted to know whether you loved me without knowing what I had. He didn't answer. So I let you believe I was ordinary. Ryan looked down. And I treated you like you were. Yes. His eyes filled with tears. I was wrong. You were. Then the board chair spoke. Mr. Carter, based on the performance record, the promotion is suspended pending a formal review. Ryan stood immediately. You can't do this. The chair looked at him. We can. Ryan turned toward me. You're doing this because of the divorce. I shook my head. No. I pointed toward the files. You did this yourself. That sentence broke him. He sat back down. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Ryan asked the question I knew was coming. Are you firing me? I looked at the board. Then at him. No. His eyes lifted. I won't use my position to punish you for what happened in our marriage. He looked confused. Then what happens? You face the same review every other employee would face. I stood. Your personal life will not protect you. But it won't destroy you either. I walked toward the door. Then I stopped. Ryan? He looked at me. You once told everyone I was only good for cooking dinner. His face tightened. I smiled slightly. You were right about one thing. He looked confused. I am good at taking care of people. I paused. But I finally learned that includes taking care of myself. I left the room. For the first time in years, I felt free. But when I reached the elevator, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ryan's mother. Just 5 words. You owe this family an explanation. I stared at the screen, then another message appeared. Come to dinner tonight. I almost ignored it. Then I saw the final line. Your father knows the truth. My heart stopped. Because Ryan had never told me his father knew anything about our marriage. And suddenly, I realized this dinner wasn't about the divorce. It was about a secret they had been hiding from me. I almost didn't go to dinner. After everything that happened, the last thing I wanted was to sit across from Ryan's family and explain myself. But one sentence kept repeating in my mind. Your father knows the truth. So I went. When I arrived, Ryan's parents were already sitting at the table. Ryan was there too. Nobody spoke when I entered. Then his father, Michael, stood up. Sophie, thank you for coming. I sat down. Tell me the truth. He looked at Ryan, then at his wife. Finally, he looked back at me. Your husband didn't know the full story. Ryan frowned. What are you talking about? Michael took a deep breath. 3 years ago, when you and Ryan got married, I warned him. Ryan stared at his father. Warned me about what? Michael looked at me. I knew who Sophie was. Ryan's face changed. You knew? Yes. Then why didn't you tell me? Because she asked me not to. Ryan looked at me. I nodded. I wanted to know if you loved me for me. His father continued. I told Ryan that money, status, and success could disappear overnight. I told him that a marriage should be built on respect. Ryan lowered his eyes. But he didn't listen. Nobody spoke. Then Michael pulled an old envelope from his jacket. He placed it on the table. This belongs to you, Sophie. I opened it. Inside was a copy of the first business agreement I had signed years ago. At the bottom was my signature. Michael smiled sadly. You built something extraordinary, but you never wanted anyone to treat you differently because of it. I looked at Ryan. He was crying now. I thought you needed me, he whispered. I never needed your money. He nodded. I know that now. Then he said something unexpected. I wasn't embarrassed that you were successful. I waited. I was embarrassed that I wasn't. The room became silent. That was the truth. Ryan hadn't hated my success. He had hated feeling smaller beside it. So he made me smaller whenever he could, until he finally believed his own words. I stood up. Ryan, I don't want revenge. He looked at me. I just don't want to be married to someone who only respects me after discovering what I own. He wiped his eyes. I understand. And for the first time, he actually did. The divorce became final a few weeks later. Ryan kept his job, but he lost the promotion. He went through the company review, accepted responsibility, and eventually rebuilt his career somewhere else. As for me, I went back to my office. I signed new contracts. I expanded the company. And I stopped hiding. Not because I needed people to know I was successful, but because I finally understood that being humble doesn't mean making yourself invisible. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is let people see exactly who you are. Months later, I received one final message from Ryan. It said, I treated you like you were nothing because I didn't know your value. Now I realize I should have valued you without needing proof. I deleted the message, not because I hated him, because I no longer needed his apology. I had already forgiven myself for staying too long, and that was enough. If this story made you think about your own relationships, tell me in the comments. Would you stay with someone who only respected you after discovering your success? And if you enjoyed this story, like the video, share it, and subscribe to Unexpected Life Stories for more emotional family drama, shocking secrets, betrayal, and powerful endings. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you. It's building a life they can no longer control.